So what some of you may not know is that the Comic Junkies Corner is actually a spin-off of the 4 Comic Junkies blog started by my friend JJ. Most of you probably noticed the link that's always in the description of the CJC videos. I made a promise that in order to make this spin-off, I'd have to keep my reviews positive. And I do. Even with the TV shows or movies that I don't like or make fun of, I'm never mean or mean-spirited. And for that very reason, I will never do a review of X3 on the CJC. That is a movie that I actually despise on a personal level, and for that reason, I don't trust that I'll be able to restrain myself in order to be very objective about it. So instead, I'm going to talk about the comic series that is light years better and what X3 was actually loosely based on, The Astonishing X-Men, written by Joss Whedon. This is a series that started in 2004 and ran up to about 2006. There are 4 main story arcs: Gifted, Dangerous, Torn, and Unstoppable. X3 was more based on Gifted, which circled around the supposed mutant cure. And for this video, to keep it short, I'll focus more on that one, but you should know that all the books are equally as good. A little background you should know going into this is that this is taking place after the attack on Genosha, the mutant safe haven, and Magneto's rampage through New York City. Charles Xavier has gone into exile, Colossus and Jean Grey are both dead, and the school is being rebuilt. Again. I suppose you'd have to read the comics to understand that reference. Anyway, the X-Men, under Cyclops' lead, take this opportunity to step out of the shadows and kind of tell the world, hey,
we're not what you think. Not all of us.
Then, the supposed cure is announced, and you can imagine that this is something that will split the mutant community straight down the middle. What's interesting is seeing the X-Men deal with this news of the cure. It really weighs on some of them, and you can really feel that. They even have fights over it. No, not argue, they fight. It's actually a pretty emotional part of the series. But what makes it more interesting though is when you find out who is behind the cause of this supposed cure. I won't spoil it, but let's just say that the cure was a choice that, if taken, would have ended the mutant race peacefully. That's right, the cure was actually a peace offering. And you can imagine how that kind of went over. This arc carries over into future books in the Wheaton arc, so if you wanted to know more about that, you'd have to read the other 3. But I must say, this series is definitely Whedon at his best. It's what happens when you have a comic fan like us who cares about and understands the characters. It's what happens when you have one of these people write for a comic book. I would have loved to see this series come to live action properly with a more faithful adaptation. The funny thing is, you can honestly read this as a continuation of the series after X2, and it still works. You'll have to do a little bit of switching around, but for the most part it's pretty spot on. If you haven't checked out this comic book series, please do. You can get the trades off Amazon or you can order them at your local comic book store. Trust me, you won't be disappointed, and I'll be surprised if you don't binge read all of them at once. So find your quiet place, turn on your reading lamp, and prepare to be astonished.